One is, it sounds like you are the kind of person who realizes that you want to progress. You want to look for a team with experience and hope you mesh with them. You've started LFR and you're like, heck, I'm LFR, no big deal. I want to start normals and maybe even work my way up into heroics eventually. If this is all situationally speaking, hypothetically, if you will. Say you guys are in there and it's all your friends and you're having a grand old time, but for the love of God, Dave has no idea how to do Mort Shock, and he just doesn't get it. Dave is just daft.
Dave, he's horrible.
Dave is daft, and he's like standing in the black blood, and he's like, "Stomp, let me take it." Or
Dave,
like,
get out of there!
It's just Dave. What are you, Dave?
What are you doing?
Come here, Dave. Come here. Sit down, Dave. We've gone over this 9 times. You are literally daft,
Dave.
And then now there's kind of a rift between you and Dave. Dave's like, geez, why is he being, we're here to have fun. But you're like, well, Dave, we want to kill the boss.
Right. Dave.
And that little rift spawns.
Yeah.
And that is not a good thing to happen with friends.
And then he can't hang out with Dave anymore. And then every time you're hanging out with Dave, it turns into this thing. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Friends are friends. Why would you want to ruin that? Because Dave is an idiot.
I was trying to keep it together, but I couldn't at the end. Dave, I mean, come on. Just do it.
But it's a good point that Solar's making, is that this rating can get competitive. And if one of your real life friends is not, cutting it, or they're frustrating, that could cause a rift in real life. That's when real life gets affected by in-game life, so to speak.
Well, and I've seen that on my raid team a little bit too, because 5 of the guys now, because we picked up a mage that also works in the same place. So all these guys work together. Half my raid team works together.
Wow.
They aren't necessarily, best friends or anything like that, but they're coworkers, hanging out and stuff like that. So it's not quite the same thing, because they're not necessarily friends outside of the game or outside of work. But you do get a little bit of that, every once in a while. Oh, Dave, that kind of thing going on.
Right. Like at the water cooler. Dave. Like, oh, here comes Dave, Mr. Stand in the Poo.
Right. We turned it into a thing like, oh, Dave, every time, so that, you can do that at work as well. So that's not a big deal. But there are some Dave moments. But I still think that playing with friends is the reason that you should be playing World of Warcraft and, any kind of these community games. Sure, you can make new friends. You can. But why not try playing with your friends first? And if they aren't living up to your expectations, I think you can probably say, you know what? I'm going to try to find a super competitive team, and we're going to try to really be super competitive. And I think that's okay.
And let me just briefly touch point 2. I did a 2-point counterpoint with points.
Dave.
Do what you want to do. Ultimately, it comes down to you paying $15 a month to enjoy a video game. Now you go out there and you enjoy the best dang video game ever, best dang invented. And you have to do that because you want to play this game for enjoyment, and you have to look deep inside of your soul. Do I want to raid with friends, or do I want to be a better raider through progression? And I have the hardest time, man, thinking about that. Do I want to play with the people I love, or do I want to be a star? And man, sometimes it just rips me right down the middle because I don't know what I want. And it's the toughest decision I've probably ever made in World of Warcraft is, do I want to be with the people I'm so comfortable with, or do I want to move on and be one of the best? Right. And I still haven't figured out the question to that yet, or the answer to that.
The answer is you got to spend more time with Dave, number one, in-game.
Love what you do.
I think you need to spend more time with Dave in-game and make Dave a better player. Number one.
Yes.
That's what you need to do.
So yeah, the 2 points right there. So yeah, get what you will out of that.
Right. Dave.
Poor Dave.
Poor Dave. He's getting a real hard time from us. I apologize.
Nice tie, Dave. And nice rotation. Nice rotation, Dave.
Dave's DPS is really not on the mark at all.
Yeah, his expertise is a little low, not just in game, but at work too.
Ooh, ouch! This is going to reflect poorly on your job review, Dave.
That's right, Dave. Poor Dave. I love you, Dave. Poor Dave.
Dave,
I feel bad for Dave. Listen, if you're listening to this show and your name is Dave,
we apologize.
We apologize. We think you're great, Dave.
Dave, you're awesome. You're pretty awesome.
Dave, you're great.
There's just a different Dave, a drastically daft Dave.
You're not a great WoW player, Dave, but you're a great person and a great friend, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. Svensson just said, someone give Dave a res.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next one. Dave, we're sorry. Coltrane, why don't you read the next one?